Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Marcella Lee.
And I'm Steve Price in tonight for Carlo. This latest storm is moving out tonight, and we have team coverage for you right now. Our Rocio de la Fe is in the North County with the mess it's left there on our roads.
CBS 8's Brian White is at Palomar Mountain tonight with the rain and windy conditions people are dealing with there. But first, let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis with a look at where things stand right now. Carlene?
Right now, we are starting to see that drying trend take place across the county, but that was not the case earlier. So we started off the day with some scattered showers, and then we had that big band. You can see it. Let's go ahead. There it is, that loop once again. This is over the last 4 hours. So we did have a band of heavy rain that moved through, and around 2 o'clock, that's when everything started to get a little bit more sketchy out there on the roadways because of all that heavy rain that came with that. So that was actually the front, and that front is still draped across our county, but you're seeing a lot of that moisture associated with it is starting to dry out. So we are still seeing some spotty showers along the 8, also seeing that for Pine Valley, and also moving in towards the Desert Mountain slopes, and even a lone shower for Fallbrook. We could be holding on to a few more showers before 10 p.m. for tonight, but then once we get past that point, that's when things will dry out, and that's going to take us into the middle of the week. What we still have in play, no longer talking about flood advisories, or we still have the wind advisory across the mountains and the desert. That goes through tonight, but the big surf right along the coast, that's going to keep going all the way until 10 p.m. for tomorrow night. You're talking about sets up to 10 feet. Not as big of a concern when it comes to flooding as last week, and that was because we also had that extra pull in the high tides and much bigger tides when we were dealing with that right along the coast. So when we take a look at conditions, you saw a lot of wet weather out there. And in North County, heavy downpours made for a messy afternoon commute. On the 15, we had an overturned semi, backed up traffic on the southbound lanes for hours, and minor street flooding forced some drivers to slow down in parts of Escondido as well as Vista. You have CBS 8's Rocio de la Fe is live with the latest conditions out there. Rocio, what's going on?
Well, right now the weather has pretty much dried up, but if you take a look behind me, you can see traffic is still pretty much at a standstill on the I-15 South. That is where that big rig overturned, creating just a total traffic nightmare for drivers on this evening commute. Now, it wasn't until about 1 o'clock this afternoon, that's when we saw the heavy downpours and wind really start to pick up here in Escondido. And that's when this crash happened, and that's also when we saw water on the roads. This was a scene earlier on the Interstate 15. Again, not much has changed. The semi-truck landed on its side. Traffic backed up for the 4 right lanes, creating just a total standstill for hours. Now, throughout the day, we also saw several spots accumulate water quickly. That caused some minor street flooding in Escondido's East Lincoln Avenue and also Mission Avenue. Also in downtown Vista, we saw rain come down sideways due to those gusty winds. And people we spoke to say this is all unusual to see so much rain in such a short amount of time.
For SoCal, it is pretty crazy rain. Being the fact that I've been through a hurricane on the East Coast, it's not too bad. Take more time, that's it. Wherever you gotta be is not as important as your own life.
You gotta be careful here. Yeah. There's a lot of traffic.
Now, crews are still working to open up those lanes again so that traffic can start flowing again. Again, it is flowing, but it's just really slow. Give yourself plenty of time if you have to travel through this area. The good news in all of this is that we're told by CHP officers is that big rig driver is okay and was able to walk out of that truck without any serious injuries. Back to you.
That is good news, Rocio. Thank you. South Mission Beach usually floods during these heavy rains, and while that did happen during that huge swell we had back on Friday, today the area only saw about 10 minutes of heavy rain, so they didn't have any really big issues out there. Local business owners told us they're grateful to not be cleaning up again, but lifeguards, they are still advising people to stay out of the water for the next 72 hours. It could possibly be contaminated from all the runoff.
Our mountain areas and backcountry also saw heavy rain today.
CBS 8's Brian White spent the day at Palomar Mountain and shows us the conditions up there.
I'm here on Palomar Mountain next to the post office, where it's a chilly 48 degrees up here, and the wind and rain have been consistent throughout the day, but locals tell me they're not bothered by it. They actually appreciate this weather.
An afternoon downpour gave Palomar Mountain a good soaking, but everyone I talked with is enjoying the rainy weather up here.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's foggy, it's rainy, it's cold. It's wonderful up here.
It's amazing. It's beautiful, and I love nature so much.
Rain soaked the roadways as drivers use extra caution navigating the windy roads up the mountainside.
It was raining pretty hard on the way up, pretty muddy and rocky and all that.
Bulldozers like this one were out clearing any debris like rocks, mud, or tree limbs that fell into the road.
It's a little tricky, but it's, just driving with caution.
There's a lot of down dirt, rocks on the road, so be careful.
Jim Hahn lives halfway up the mountain on East Grade Road, and he says the rain has been steady.
It's cold. It's probably about 48 degrees and raining hard. I think San Diego and California needs the water, but maybe not all at once.
Nearby, Valley Center saw plenty of wind and rain too, but some people didn't mind it. What do you think of the weather right now?
I love the rain. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and this is my kind of daily weather.
And Matthew Gross, who drives for UPS, didn't mind doing his job in this weather.
I like to change every once in a while, so it's nice to come by. Different weather conditions, at least I'm not working in the snow.
Meanwhile, back on Palomar Mountain, the general store on South Grade Road didn't see a whole lot of customers today, which allowed them to catch up on some inventory.
Keeps the customers from coming up here, but it's okay. It's a seasonal thing. I love this mountain. We do get the seasonality overall, weather-wise. So the forest and most of us love all this rain.
On Palomar Mountain, Brian White, CBS 8.